Welcome to Creative in Tech, a podcast show powered by ReadSpeaker AI. I'm your host, Carrie Roberts, and I'm the brand evangelist for North America at ReadSpeaker. And this show is all about highlighting the various brands, organizations, and people that are creatively using one of the fastest growing spaces in technology, artificial intelligence, including things like conversational AI, voice technology, and more. And today we are talking about AI in the retail and e-commerce space. And I have with me Glynn-Jones. He is the founder of a company called Send Me a Sample. He's calling in from London today. Excited to have you here. Welcome, Will.
Thank you very much. Great to be here.
Yes. So you were in the marketing space for quite a long time. And then in 2008, you kind of make this transition into the voice technology space. And I'm curious, back in 2018, what were you kind of noticing in the retail and e-commerce space in terms of where it was going? And why did you kind of make that shift into voice at that time?
Yeah, it's a really good question. I feel almost a bit of a faker sometimes in the tech space because, as you pointed out.
Oh, hold on, Will, we're losing you just a little bit.
Oh, sorry, am I back?
Oh, we lost your sound.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, we just had you a moment. We just lost you for a second. Try it again.
Tell me if it's better now.
That's better now. Go for it.
There we go. Apologies if there's any of my problems. It's probably the UK Wi-Fi.
No worries. Go ahead.
And I was just saying, I feel a bit of a faker in the tech space because, as you pointed out, my career has been very much in the marketing space, particularly in consultancies. And in 2018, I was running a marketing agency very much in retail and e-commerce. And I was looking at ways of how we could sort of drive a differentiation. What made us different from any other marketing consultancy out there? Because there's a lot of them. And I was looking particularly how technology was impacting on shopper behavior. What technologies were actually driving people to go and buy, do things in a different way that I said, could put us as a point of difference against our competitors. And so I was looking for products that I could sort of introduce into our stack that I could take to clients and say, look, this is the way that consumers are going to be going. And voice in that time was very interesting. It was still a little bit early and people were thinking this is going to be a very exciting way of where we're going. But equally, there was a huge investment in it. People like Amazon and Google were obviously pouring billions of dollars into the platforms. And I thought, well, actually, is that a way that we can really enable consumers to link better with brands, help them to shop better? And is there anything that we could do with that? And at the same time, I was thinking, what do we do normally in our marketing space that can be improved in it? And product trial was one of those things that has historically been absolutely huge. Brands for years and years have spent millions of dollars on getting people to try their products. And that's been done very traditionally. You walk into a store and somebody gives you a sample. And so I think, is there a way that technology can be used to drive that forward? And actually voice was a way that that could do that in a much more effective way, and actually be something that consumers could adopt quite easily. So we started looking to how that works, and when we actually looked a bit further, we thought, well, actually, this is more than just a product. This could actually be a business, and so we developed the tech a little bit further. Went and got some investment, and in early 2019, we properly launched Send Me a Sample in 2 markets, giving consumers the ability to request a product sample through their voice assistant, and giving brands access to much more measurable and effective product trial with data baked in at the back end.
Yeah, and before we get into kind of more of what Send Me a Sample does, so again, kind of back in that 2018 period, like you said, voice was still new in terms of Alexa and Google kind of coming out. I think most people back then were like, okay, it's a cool new tech, but I'm not sure what to do with it. Did you find that most people you met were excited about it and wanted to use it, or were kind of apprehensive? Like, what was the overall feeling around it in 2018 versus maybe now in 2021?
There was an excitement around it, but again, there was probably a little bit of a cynicism as well. A little bit around what can it do for me over and above turning on my lights? And I think actually, still here in 2021, we're still suffering from a little bit of that. I think there's always a slight creepy factor with any adopting new technology. What we think is weird now in 2 years' time is going to be completely normal. And so I think there was always a little bit of that. But this is the whole point with technology that gets adopted quite quickly. It gets adopted quickly because it's useful. And when people see that there's a use for it and they're presented with use cases where they can make their lives better or easier, then actually it becomes less of an argument, and it's an easier thing for people to accept and to adopt. So yes, always a little bit of cynicism and not sure, but at the same time, a lot of excitement about what it could be and where it can take.
Yes. And I actually found out about your company because we had someone else on the podcast talking about retail, and she had found it and she said, "Oh, I found this really cool thing." And I was like, we have to bring on the person who created it because I think it's so important, and you have some great use cases. So again, can you kind of describe for people that haven't tried it out what Send Me a Sample is, how it works, and then maybe share some of the use cases? I know you did a great one with Coca-Cola. You could share that one as well. But kind of break it down. How did it start? How do you work it?
Yeah, so Send Me a Sample, at its core, it's a voice application that exists on Amazon Alexa and Google Assistant, and it enables consumers to request a free product sample just by asking. That's what it is at its absolute basic form. But what really is for brands, it's a customer acquisition platform. So it acquires new customers for brands by obviously delivering product trial into home, but at the same time collecting and passing back first-party data. So it has obviously what we say a win-win. For consumers, it's all about getting product samples that they want, easily, friction-free, delivered directly into their home. And for brands, much more measurable and effective product trial. As I said before, product trial and sampling in particular, there's been no innovation in that space for years and years and years. It was very much go into a store and have it given to you as you walk past, or maybe if you're getting the train or the bus to work, there'll be somebody standing outside there, or maybe in an event. So, really very difficult to get targeting right for brands. But most importantly, once you've given somebody that sample, they disappear into the ether and you never hear or see from them again. Well, that's not modern marketing. That's not performance marketing. That's not understanding the value of your marketing dollar. So what Send Me a Sample does is it connects it all together. And most importantly, it does it from any media. So you can actually use Send Me a Sample across any media that you're doing within your marketing mix. So whether you're advertising on TV, whether you're doing it on audio, digital, print, outdoor, just by putting a simple call to action, you can turn your advertising from brand awareness, brand equity advertising, straight into brand activation. And that's been something that's never been able to be done before. And it's voice that makes that happen, because voice is effectively a neutral media. You can use it in any space. I can use it in the home, I can use it in the car, I can use it when I'm out and about through my phone. So it connects any media. It gives consumers obviously a friction-free experience, and it gives brands much more measurable and effective spend for their measurable effective marketing spend.
And I think also, what's kind of interesting about this that you don't get, when you're going into a store is this kind of surprise and delight feature, right? Everyone loves to get mail. Yes, we are going in this kind of new age of technology, but people still love to get mail and still like to get gifts. We've seen these kind of subscription boxes over the years become something people love. But this is even more surprise and delight because you're asking it to send you a sample and maybe a specific category, and you don't know what it's going to be. So then you get it, and there's an excitement around that. And so, like you said, you're kind of bringing this to the next level.
Yeah, it's tangibility. People like to hold something. And that's really, really important. Having something direct to home, particularly in these times, is something that's equally important. And actually, even before what happened over the last 18 months with the pandemic, which has obviously hugely driven direct to home deliveries and people ordering online. Even before that, people were adopting and people were hoping and looking for much more direct to home experiences. And I think that's a lot of where we're moving towards. I think the home is going to be a whole new channel where obviously you've looked at stores before and you've looked at online. I think the home is going to be really the hub of where consumers are going to be having so many experiences, whether that's retail or entertainment. And I think the more that brands look at different technologies that enables that in-home experience, I think that the better those brands will do in the long term.
Yes, I 100% agree with you. And I think what's nice, about your story and the reason I brought you on is it's not just kind of this theory or idea. It's something you've put into action and it has an ROI, and it's tangible, which is what a lot of organizations are looking for. So, can you share with us either the Coca-Cola example, what they were trying to do and what they kind of got out of it, or if there's another one that you prefer to share as well?
No, I think Coca-Cola is a great example. We work with them in a number of different markets around the world. And product trial is particularly important for them as a brand. Some people are quite surprised that. They always say, well, surely, people don't need to try Coke. Nearly everyone's tried Coke. But obviously, they invested a huge amount of money in new product development, new flavors. And getting people to constantly trial it is a key objective for them. Equally, they're always looking for innovation in the space. How can we make sure we're doing it, as I said, effectively? How can we do it that we're keeping up with what consumers expect? And they found that actually by connecting product trial with their media, there could be a much more successful way of delivering or what they are looking to do. So one of the examples in the UK that we did was working with them in a very traditional space of TV, just putting a call to action and activating their television advertising. So they were launching a new flavor, exotic mango in the UK. It was a Diet Coke variant. They were playing out their normal media, but they wanted to turn that into the opportunity to trial as well. So we worked with their media agency and we put a call to action on the end of their advertising. So consumers knew that when they saw the TV ad, all they needed to do was turn around to their Alexa or their Google Assistant and ask for a sample. And it worked incredibly well. At its peak, we were getting something like 650 requests per minute. So it really proves that even at that time, and this was one of our earlier campaigns that we ran, that consumers really were engaging with voice as a platform and actually doing it at the same time as consuming other media, television. So yeah, not only did we get a huge response, we got a huge amount of conversion from it because obviously we have then opt-in follow-up data that we can use. And so we drive people to purchase, we get people to answer surveys, and we get very, very high response rates. We sent a survey in the US for a campaign 2 weeks ago, and we got a 23% response rate. And we send these surveys to thousands and thousands of people. So it's not just getting a product into people's homes. It's about understanding their sort of attitudes and their behavior towards that brand, what they thought about the product, where they shop, why they shop, what other brands they might consume. So building a much, much closer relationship with them post-trial. And this is something that, as I said, traditional product sampling has never given before. So I think we're affording brands a much deeper experience with their consumer, as well as giving consumers the opportunity to easily request a product sample. Sorry, go on.
No, I was just before you continue, I just want to point out something else that was really smart in working with them, because a lot of times people will use new technology. And again, a voice assistant, for example, they do it and then they don't do anything to help market it. And so you saying, okay, we worked with Coca-Cola to say, we're going to have this as part of their TV ad, their commercial, and then get them to use it. You're working with marketing that they see is already working for them. And so that's such a smart thing to kind of emphasize here, that it's not just about creating something that's unique and a great experience, but also doing that marketing, that connection so that people know about it and use it and will continue to use it.
Yeah, discoverability is probably the biggest issue for voice applications and voice skills, yes. Particularly for brands. I know so many use cases of brands that go on and develop a voice application themselves and actually don't do anything with it to communicate it. So there's one thing having a good use case, it's another thing making sure that people know about it. And I think Send Me a Sample has been successful exactly to that point, that it sits and it dovetails with other media as well. It doesn't sit on its own. And it's not something that sits there almost as an island and saying that this is the panacea for everything. No. It works in tandem with what a brand is doing. And the reason, that we use brands media is not just obviously to get the discoverability of the skill, it's to increase targeting. Mm-hmm. One of the problems with handing out a sample at a sports event or a store is you don't really know who you're handing it to. And so you can't get that targeting as close as you want to. with Send Me a Sample, because it's on the brand's advertising, that advertising is already targeted. It's already gone through all of the layers of strategy and targeting to make sure that it's speaking to the right audience. The consumer then self-selects. The consumer has to say, yes, I want a sample. They have to ask their voice assistant. So it becomes much more premium. And so the wastage that brands traditionally see just falls away. And at the same time, the skill gets used. Brands advertising is actually delivering more value because it's not just there as brand awareness, it's actually doing something. So all in all, it's just adding to what brands are doing, as opposed to creating something new and hoping that we're going to get consumers to adopt something just by finding it themselves, which is, as we know, notoriously difficult to do.
Yes. And is the skill something where, the person is just asking to send me a sample and then choosing something, or can they ask other questions or say other things? And are you getting that feedback to either give to the brand or for your own company to kind of improve the skill as well?
So currently, it's very much a response channel. So it is just a very easy, basic way for a consumer to respond to a brand offering a product sample. So you as a consumer will say, send me a sample for a Coke Zero, and then you'll be pushed through to a voice experience, which will process that request. There are customizable elements within that, so we can give consumers the choice of samples that they might want from a brand. So for example, is there a different flavor, or if we're working with a perfume brand, you might want a his or a hers, or you might want a specific shade of cosmetic. So all of that is customizable, and we can offer that. But it's about offering a very, very simple user experience, and I think that's what's so key with conversational AI and with voice experiences. The more you complicate it, the less consumers will use it, because we're still at that stage where consumers are finding out, adopting, and wanting to do something new. If you make it too hard, they're going to switch off. And we study our drop-off rates very, 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 very hard. We always want to make sure that we make it as easy for consumers to start, to continue, and to finish it, because there's no good having an experience that finishes early. So yeah, as simple as possible. That said, just about to contradict myself, as time goes on and consumers obviously become a lot more, I think, happy with the way that they're engaging with these sorts of devices, in our roadmap, we have lots of different ways that we're going to engage more with the consumer to add value to that experience. But I think that takes time, and we need to take baby steps to get to that point.
Yes, I agree. I think everything you're saying, it's why your company has been successful thus far. It's, again, what's the one problem? How can we fix it? How can we connect it? How can we create ROI? How do we make it easy to use? I mean, thinking of all those things, I know it takes so much time, but being able to clarify and bring it down to those really important pieces is impressive. And I think that's why, like I said, when I found out about your company, I was like, this is so smart, and glad that you're here. As you're kind of talking about, okay, once somebody understands this and this is growing and people understand how to use voice a little bit more, where do you think the value of branding comes in terms of adding, music, your own music, or adding a customized voice, or adding certain sounds or things that would kind of enhance the experience and make it unique to either the brand or your particular skill?
Yeah, I think it's really important. Adding value at every stage is really, really key. Always ask yourself, what am I doing that's making this better for the person that's using it? And I know it's such a simple thing, and probably it's what everybody says, but actually in my experience, certainly with the marketing world, is you'd be so surprised at how many marketers forget about the user and forget about the consumer and are thinking more about their brand. They're thinking more about, how can we make this much more about our brand? How can we make it this, as opposed to, well, what do people want and what are you adding to it? So bringing in music, bringing in different voices, absolutely, if we think that that's going to be what the consumer's going to respond well to. I remember having a conversation not long ago with a prospective client. We don't just do physical samples, by the way. We do digital samples. So we send magazines, or we send movie trailers or music downloads. And I was having a conversation with somebody who wanted to promote the latest season of a series that they had coming out. by offering a sneak preview of a very, very highly confidential trailer to some specific audience. And they wanted to re-record Alexa and Google's voice using talent from the show. And we thought that was a really, really smart idea, because it's just something that will engage with the consumer that little bit more. It doesn't ask anything more of the consumer, it just adds. And I think those sorts of little really nice treats, they're the things that will do well. So bring music in, bring other voices, but always, always front of your mind, what's it doing for the consumer as opposed to what's it doing for me?
Yes. And I'm so excited. Well, I am loving everything you're talking about, because you just kind of push that envelope again, also in saying we don't just do physical products, that this can be, send me a sample, like you said, of a new show coming out that they kind of want to test the trailer, but they don't want to give it to everyone. You know, when you're doing something like that, and I don't know if you can share this, but is there a way to do this where, let's say, someone who does look at it doesn't record it, doesn't leak it, doesn't, push it out too soon?
There's lots of ways that we can do things to keep things secure.
Mm-hmm.
What we find actually is, in the majority of cases, brands are like a little bit of virality. There's nothing better than your friend telling you something great about a brand. And so brands are very smart. They hide behind, we want to be, this is only for a select audience. But really, they want everybody to hear about it. So working with platforms like us, where we have the ability to seed it and put it into the correct environments, get the correct type of influencer, that's what they're looking for. We also do have the ability to do things like coupons and vouchers. And sometimes you need to put security around those, because you don't want those coupons or vouchers to be used more than they should do, because there's a monetary value to it. So we have the ability to do coupons that could be what we call burnt. So once they're used once, they won't be used again. So they don't have that share. So there's lots of things that we can do to work with brands to hit their objectives, whether it's sending physical, digital, or doing something that's a little bit more fun.
I love it. And you kind of talked about, expanding this in the future. Is there anything you can share in kind of ways that you would like to kind of see this grow?
Our growth strategy is market based. So we'll be looking to go into different countries. We're in 6 territories now. I say 6. We're just putting the final touches to our latest market rollout. So we're rolling out to Italy early next month. Which is super exciting, because obviously everything's in local language. So send me a sample in Germany sounds very, very different as it does to the US or the UK. So Italy's going to be with us in the next few weeks. So we'll continue to roll out to markets where voice has a very high penetration. But I think what's really exciting is about using the same platform across different channels in other markets. So we're looking at some markets like India, for example, where voice may not be the exact thing to use at the moment, but WhatsApp may be. So bringing the same sort of technology, but to using, and this is coming back to my point of making sure it's easy for the consumer. Don't try and ram something down a consumer's throat when it doesn't fit for them. So we're looking at how we can use our technology across different platforms, different channels, and obviously spreading that to different countries as quickly as we can.
I'm so excited. So if somebody is kind of listening and they're a brand or an organization that says, okay, we should be getting into voice technology. Like, okay, I get it. I hear what he's saying. Do you have maybe one piece of advice for them in terms of how to get into it, or how to think about it, or which company to work with, anything along those lines?
Well, first off, go to www.sendmeasample.com. That would always be my first piece of advice for a brand. Shameless, I know. Look, consider very, very strongly, is it right for your brand? Because here's the thing, it's not right for everybody. And I think people like us in our industry, we need to be very honest and to say, again, that voice isn't always the panacea for every single brand. It's not always right for every use case. Understand what who your consumer is and how they behave, and what you'll be looking to bring to the party. Find a reliable partner, because you're going to have to spend some time getting it right, and working with a partner that really understands the marketplace, really understands how users and consumers are interacting with this sort of technology, is going to save you an awful lot of time and heartache. So find the right partner. But at the same time, I'll go back to it again. Create something that is going to add value to consumers' lives. Because if it's just about flogging something, if it's just about selling your brand and you think, do you know what, I'll create a skill or a voice application, people are going to flock to it because I've got a great brand, then you're going to get yourself in trouble. So make sure that you put some value behind it, but also invest in making it findable and making it something that consumers want to find out more about and want to use.
Yes, no, I think that's a great point. If people want to learn more about anything we talked about, they want to try Send Me a Sample, where is the best place to do that?
Sendmeasample.com, my LinkedIn page, Will Glynn-Jones, or will at sendmeasample.com. I'll get straight back to you and tell you how you can use it, probably more surprisingly across more brands than you think.
Perfect. Well, I thank you so much, Will. I congratulate you on really finding a great use case and bringing it to life. And for those watching and listening, definitely check out his website. There's some great videos on there as well to showcase the work they've done. I thank you so much for being here, Will.
Thank you very much, Carrie.
And if you are watching and listening, don't forget to subscribe to our ReadSpeaker AI YouTube page. You'll see all the video interviews we've done there, as well as our audio podcast called Creative in Tech, wherever you listen to podcasts.